Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Lens of Bias. My name is Kat Killian, and I'm glad to be here with you today and hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Today, I am going to talk about the recently passed bill in the Senate supporting same sex marriage. And they were able to get enough buy-in from some Republican senators uh, because of the religious freedoms that were built into it. Basically, stating that religious institutions will not have to um, honor same-sex marriage and how that works. So, I think what the bias here is some of the senators and what the senators who voted against it and what they're saying about that. And so these senators are saying that it's against religious freedom. It's a violation of their First Amendment rights to recognize same-sex marriage. And I think there's an inherent bias in this statement um, because no one is asking them to support. What it is basically saying that marriage has to be recognized by the state. And in this country, we have separation of church and state. There is no national church. So there are religions that are okay with that. And there are some Christian denominations which are okay with that. My church in particular is built around LGBTQ community. And so or that's one of the primary clientele that they support and doing that. I should say we're open to everyone. Um, and there are also many people who have no faith or who identify as having no faith. They may just be spiritual, they may be atheists, they may be agnostic, but they're not actively practicing a faith. So by saying that they're being biased by passing this law, they're being biased against their religion. Again, I state, don't quote me the Bible, don't quote me religious texts. This is a matter of state. How is the state recognizing a same-sex marriage a violation of somebody's First Amendment rights to practice their own religion? Because they're not asking anyone to um, what do I want to say? They're not asking anyone to perform same sex marriages in a religious setting. So no church is required to do that. They're not asking them to recognize in their context of their religious faith to promote, to allow same sex couples into their churches. Uh, and so going back to these arguments that are often biblical in basis, the law is not based on the Bible. The law of this country is not based on the Bible. It is not based on Christianity. So, where is the bias? The bias is these people are basically saying this is the way things should be, and we want everyone to believe what we believe. And so which is, you know, gay people shouldn't exist. They shouldn't have the right to function as fully contributing member societies. They shouldn't be allowed to enter a contract with another human being to share their life together, which it at its basic level is what marriage is. It is a contract between two people. When they dissolve the marriage, they have to go through a divorce. It is a legal proceeding. Now, whether or not their religion recognizes that divorce is something else. But people will go through a legal proceeding in order to dissolve their marriage. Um, and so basically, if you are a person who is against same sex marriage, what I would ask you to look at is in the sense of our Constitution, in the sense of our idea of what rights are, regardless of how you feel about uh, homosexuals as people, irregardless of what you regardless of what you feel about same-sex marriage in terms of your religious views. We are talking about a secular definition of this. And if I would encourage anyone who is watching this show, if you disagree with me and you can point to something specifically in our Constitution that would prevent this, uh, don't quote me natural law, don't quote me Bible, none of that kind of stuff, because that is not what our law is based upon. Our laws are based upon contracts between people, in a sense, contracts between businesses. If you're going to allow businesses to have these certain presence, why not allow two people of the same sex, consenting adults, let's make that very clear, to enter into a contract together to share a life? Why should a homosexual as a single person have to be a single person and not be afforded the rights that everyone else is through marriage in terms of inheritance, property rights, etc., so on and so forth? And frankly, if some people, and some people have uh, have lots of marriage problems, why shouldn't they share the same misery that heterosexual people sometimes have to face? And regardless of whether or not they're married, any people in relationships do have that. So rather than point out what the bias is specifically and what kind of bias today, that's what I'm going to ask you to look at, to see exactly where your bias against homosexual marriage comes from, and is it based in a sound legal argument? So my challenge to you is to do your homework. And if you are a heterosexual person who is of a religious persuasion and does not believe in heterosexual or homosexual marriage, again, that is fine for you. That is your belief. I am not asking to join your religion. I am not asking to be a part of it. I'm not asking you as a religious person to recognize that. What I am asking is that you recognize the legality of the marriage, which is essentially what the bill passed by the Senate is going to do, and it is going back to the House because this was passed originally through the House and there was some revision by the Senate, so the House does have to go back and pass it. Um, and again, I'm going to bring up another topic related to this is, why do we need this? The law was passed, or the Supreme Court declared that marriages between two people of the same sex are legal. And we all thought that about abortion. And the Supreme Court overturned uh, the right to an abortion and kicking it back to the states. And again, whatever you feel about abortion, um, it is that. So really, what the abortion question is a question over bodily autonomy. What the marriage question is again, bodily autonomy. Do I want to be married to a same-sex person? Do I want to be married to another person who might be of the opposite sex, but of a different race? And that same thing calls into question that the state can regulate who we get married to based on what? No basis in law that would deny two people to make a contract together. So I'm going to leave it at that. And I don't want you to think that marriage, I think marriage is solely a contract. Legally, it is solely a contract. I think marriage is much more than that. It is a commitment to a shared life, to an emotional life, to a spiritual life together. And so in saying that, I realize there is much more to it than that. And that is why marriage in the context of what some may call a biblical marriage might have to be done in a church that affirms that, and a church that affirms uh, interracial unions uh, or same-sex marriage. You'd have to have a affirming body that would allow that, meaning a religious body or non-religious body. It could be a humanist association, um, that would allow that and allow you to, in a sense, solemnize that union. And so I'm going to leave it at that. Again, I'm going to put in a plug for the movie 1946. Hopefully, it will be coming on streaming services soon. For those of you who may have that biblical view, I would ask that you watch the movie and see exactly what has changed and how society and the beliefs and the leaders of the churches have changed that in order to create an other. And in a sense, this culture war regarding same sex marriage, a lot of it is about that culture war that started initially somewhat innocently with the change of the word in the Bible and the meaning to homosexual, and therefore how that uh, gave birth to more and more use of that word, changing the original meaning of the Bible, and how that was weaponized by the religious right, such as the moral majority and things like that. So when it comes out, but on whatever streaming service it comes out on, because that's yet to be determined, I would encourage you all to watch it, to keep an open mind, and to to see if there is really the truth in that. So for today, I'm hoping love, peace, and equality to you all um, in this season of holidays that are coming up for a number of religious groups. I hope you all enjoy this month. I will be back next week with a new topic, and I will see you then. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.